Hi, I'm Jordan Knapp. I lead the Plus Solutions team for Shopify Plus. Today we're going to be talking to three of our most distinguished partners within the Shopify Plus community: Lucid Fusion, Rocket Code, and Seed CMS. We spent a lot of time this year really talking to a number of partners within the ecosystem, and I think there's a number of things that have surprised us from many of our conversations. I think first and foremost, I've just been completely shocked by how collaborative the ecosystem is. In past life, partners largely saw one another as competitors, not necessarily collaborators. So most of our partners today have either some existing relationships with other Plus partners in the ecosystem. They may be doing subcontracting work with other folks in the ecosystem. I think one of the other things that we found interesting at Shopify Plus is how many of our partners are looking for support as they start to grow their businesses. I think the one thing we all share in common is that we're all going through some sort of mass transformation. If you're a large digital agency, you're learning how to modify, let's say, your services to be more nimble, to maybe focus on Plus type agreements versus a legacy on-premise. If you're a startup partner, you might potentially be trying to figure out how to scale your business, get more visibility in the market, manage your contracts or your accounts receivable. Hiring might be top of mind. So with that, I think we're going to introduce today's panel. So first, I think we'd like to introduce Sanjay Katode, who is the founder of Seed CMS, Emily George, who leads partnerships and acquisitions for Rocket Code, and Zubin Maulavi, who is the founder of Lucid Fusion. And I think with that, we'll do a quick roundtable for introductions. So Sanjay, can you hear us?
I can. Hello.
Excellent, Sanjay. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe your origins in the e-commerce community?
All right. So myself and my business partner, Robert, we started Seed CMS about 5.5 years ago. We were a fledgling content management system. And, I have a lot of background in e-commerce. I used to run, ran about 10 different stores in the 2000s. And, Robert comes from a back-end coding background, and we came together and kind of ran into Shopify on accident about 4.5 years ago. Now our core competency is design and development, and we definitely have our own niche in the fashion, cosmetics, jewelry industries, and there've been some sub niches within that. We've been on Shopify, strong and pretty much 100% Shopify shop for the last 4 years. And, we've grown quite a bit over the past 2. So,
that's fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's about it. I could go into much more detail, but we'll let everybody else talk.
Excellent. Excellent. Emily?
Sure. My name is Emily George. As mentioned, I am the Partnerships and Acquisitions Manager here at Rocket Code. So I came to Rocket Code most directly from a long-standing career in hospitality. I knew Jonathan Poma, the founder of Rocket Code, through another startup venture that we were both involved with. And when he was really Rocket Code had been in existence for about 6 months and was doing really well, all contract employment at that time. So they took me on as kind of the first W-2 employee and then hired everybody else in shortly thereafter. So I was kind of, for the first year that I was there, just a very jack of all trades, kind of plugging holes and filling in where needed to fill in as the business scaled and grew. And then just about the last 4 months have taken over this position as the company has kind of again stabilized at a new level of growth.
Fantastic. Zubin.
Hi, Jordan. Hi, everyone. I'm Zubin Maulavi with Lucid Fusion. Our story is a little bit different because we've been around for 17 years, believe it or not. And I started the company freshman year of university, UC Irvine, studying computer engineering, and thinking that, I'm doing this stuff in school, I can probably do it for companies as well. And it was a kind of a hard lesson over the first few years, thinking that you can run a business and do the work, and you can't really do either very well. But it was a good learning experience. And most of our clients early on were in the B2B space because of where we're positioned in the country, primarily med device, software, and these are larger enterprise brands. So we have a lot of enterprise brand experience, and because of my background's in engineering, we ended up hiring a lot of engineers to begin with. We realized that in order to be really full service and look at the bigger picture and see things 360, we need to bring in marketing, advertising folks. And so we expanded from that perspective, and our first foray in e-commerce was in 2009 with a brand that we helped on Magento Enterprise. And then subsequently, we worked on a number of brands, Magento Enterprise community, built a lot of plugins. And one of our clients, Oru Kayak, who was on Kickstarter and Shark Tank, they mentioned to us, we had them on Magento Enterprise, and they're the world's first foldable kayak. And they said, look, we want to move to Shopify. We're tired of Magento. All we're paying for is maintenance to maintain the status quo. And obviously, from our perspective as an agency, it helped because we're getting revenue from a recurring standpoint, maintaining these systems. So we resisted for 3 months. Finally, they said, look, either you're going to move us or someone else is. So we gave in 2015, moved them to Shopify, and then became more familiar with Shopify Plus and what's really possible in the ecosystem. And we changed our entire business model from our e-commerce division to support Shopify Plus. And it's really been great for us. It's challenging because on one end, it was challenging at first because, you're getting paid to maintain systems, and so you're on the cost side of the equation. But what's great about Shopify Plus now is that what we get paid on an ongoing basis to support our clients is benefiting them from a revenue standpoint. So that's why really happy to be here with yourself, Sanjay, and Emily as well, and looking forward to our chat today.
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you, Zubin. So I think one of the things that I thought was interesting is also how very different each of your organizations are. And I'll let you explain versus, I think, describing the differentiations. But each of you are, I think, very different sizes, different degrees of tenure, different focus of technical services versus agency services. So given, I guess, how dynamic the marketplace or the partner network is, it might be good just to maybe give 2 minutes each just on really what is the differentiating equation that, that's really made your organization successful. And maybe we'll go the same order again. Sanjay, if you'd like to go first.
Okay, great. I think we built our business as being a small company and kind of on a personal level with our clients. And we still keep some very personal relationships with a lot of our clients. We have kind of digged into some more agency services. We do have a marketing director. We do, have 15, 20 clients that we do monthly marketing for, but really our bread and butter is, front end and back end development. We're about 60% on the front end side, 40 on the back end side. Especially with Shopify Plus, a lot of these clients need, with the more enterprise a client, the more API integrations, custom apps, custom functionality that they're looking for. So we definitely focus on that and hire developers that we can bring from the front end to the back end side as they grow and learn the platform. And then with the front end side, we also do specialize in design. So we're definitely focused on that. We're less focused on some of the agency type services. But we obviously, and another big portion of our business is working with, design firms and marketing agencies all over the country that, refer their work over to us to, whether it's jumping in to create a custom app or doing a full build. We're pretty nimble. All our developers have a lot on their plate, and that's about it.
Awesome, that's fantastic. Emily?
Cool. So Rocket Code, we're one of our differentiating factors is we're in Columbus, Ohio. So we're based in the Midwest. We are 24 employees strong now, and that's pretty evenly split. We've got like 7 or 8 developers that split front end, back end. So we're full stack in that realm. We've got 7 or 8 on our product team. So folks who manage accounts and do strategy and project management. We do have a really phenomenally talented team of designers. So there are 3 designers. And then there's a handful of us who kind of float, whether it's administrative or financial services, kind of those sorts of things. So from that standpoint, we are a fairly well-rounded, deep agency. The kind of work that we do is all e-commerce, very brand-centric. So Chubby's Shorts is kind of the origin story of Rocket Code, the company that allowed Rocket Code to really stand alone as a company when John was founding it. And they're like kind of the perfect brand story for being their own brand with a really well-identified clientele and a great following. And we work really strategically with those types of brands. So from data and analytics and helping to determine what is the next best thing to do for your e-commerce experience, all the way to somebody who is looking for a migration from a different platform, we have those chops, and that's the kind of work we like to do.
Excellent. And then Zubin, I'll pass to you.
Great. So we have, I kind of alluded to it earlier, but we've been kind of growing our team for the last 17 years. So we have an office in Southern California. We have a presence in New York and one in London as well. So we have 40 team members globally. I think one of the things that distinguishes us, and frankly, everyone's story in terms of what distinguishes them, is like the genuine story of how you came to be and who you are today. And that's really what distinguishes everyone in terms of the DNA of the organization. With us, it was engineering to begin with. But once we added marketing, advertising, and the types of clients that we were supporting, so with the global brands like Vizio, Sage, Lexmark, CoreLogic, these larger B2B brands, they really helped us fine tune what we do for B2C clients, both from an engineering standpoint and the marketing advertising side. So for us, we tell our clients and prospects we do three things essentially: build, launch, grow. But it's really the launch and grow side and the marketing advertising side that helps us on the engineering side to ensure that when we create these environments, that they're optimized for conversion at every stage of the funnel. So it's really managing that funnel, understanding that funnel, that helps us build environments that are optimized for conversion. And then again, back to the roots of how we started with engineering, that's one of the things that we pride ourselves in and distinguishes our organization versus others, in that we'll take on any engineering feat and challenge. And kind of our motto here is demand the impossible. And so for us, it's those clients that have custom integrations, the ones that have more complexity in terms of what they're looking to achieve, that we get excited about.
Fantastic. That's awesome. And all three of your organizations have really developed, obviously, strong reputations in the industry. And a huge component of that is going to be word of mouth. But independent of word of mouth, what would your recommendation be for a new agency? What have you done that's really helped to raise your profile, to just create your own brand awareness within an ecosystem that oftentimes can be crowded?
Starting with me again.
Honestly, let's open it up. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can jump into that.
Excellent.
I think that's a really interesting question, because even when we started, we really picked and chose the projects we worked on. We found ones that went along with our sensibilities. I'm into streetwear and into fashion. We started working with those companies. They were good fits. We kind of learned their business and their niches by working with companies that we're really interested in what they were doing and what they were selling. We don't want to work with a company that's selling nuts and bolts. We'd rather work with something that we can get into. We understand the business. And our growth has almost been 100% word of mouth. And I think that really comes from us working in industries where, we understand the industry and enjoy the industry, and obviously our clients are enjoying their experience with us. And I think that has definitely helped us along the way. And, along our, from the growth side, working with those type of brands that kind of fit our sensibilities. And that's kind of been our best move when it comes to, choosing projects and growing.
I think that Sanjay's point really can't be understated. It's really important understanding who you are, what matters to you, and who you go after. I know for the first few years of Lucid Fusion, we kind of went after everybody that was around because we thought that we needed the revenue. We thought all revenue was good, but all revenue isn't good. And A, you may lose focus, and B, you're just not as passionate about certain things. So I think it's important before you do anything to really understand what it is you stand for, who it is that you want to work for, what excites you, what are you passionate about. And then in terms of In terms of referral sources, certainly word of mouth is the best one that any of us can have, that anyone can have. But when they're starting an agency, they probably don't have that opportunity. I would say focus on what your strengths are. A lot of people, brands, but mostly people, because brands are made of people, whatever you're really good at, you feel like it's easy. And so you kind of try to do something else. I think it's really important to focus and double down on what you're good at, and then begin to produce content, get it out there, have your blog, post on LinkedIn. Content is a long play. Obviously, it's not like it's going to bring you leads immediately, but it'll be a great way of getting your name out there. So when you have those opportunities to pitch, when they look you up, they see that you're an expert in, for instance, interface design, and that's what you're focusing on. So just my 2 cents on that.
Fantastic. And then do any of you engage in any sort of paid marketing? Is there a component that has that you do either online ad buying or obviously events, but is there any paid components? I don't know, Emily, if I know you get involved quite a bit on the marketing side as well.
Yeah, so really similar to both Lucid Fusion and Seed, we don't really do any outbound marketing. We don't pay for any advertising. We don't do any of that kind of soliciting, but we do a lot of events. We kind of collaborate with other agencies, other technologies, we do a lot of work, of course, with Shopify Plus, and those kind of experiential opportunities to engage clients, we find to be way more beneficial. And I guess, how do I say it's way more beneficial? Because we've never bought an ad, but more the experience we want someone to come to us because of. Like we want you to come and work with Rocket Code because you had this experience, you had this interaction, as opposed to like you clicked on an ad. And I think it speaks to the point too of, finding the clients you want to work with and then working with those people. Like, do I want someone who clicks on an ad and then comes to work with us? Or do I want someone who showed up to an event and we got to meet in person? So that's just been kind of our play thus far.
No, that's good. That's it.
What we've done.
Oh, go ahead.
No, just in terms of outbound, what we've done, we've tested the traditional Google AdWords, Facebook advertising approach for what we do. I think for the more common phrases, you get quite a bit of noise. And that noise doesn't help, right? So you have to be very specific, again, back to who you are and what kind of companies you're trying to attract. So what's worked out well for us is the content that we publish, we'll do content marketing against it. So we'll position that content to marketing managers, directors at e-commerce brands to consume that content. And then if they contact us, great. If they don't, it's fine. Again, to Emily's point, it's about getting out there and getting in front of the right people. But that's worked out well for us.
Excellent. And all of your organizations put out a lot of work, especially for organizations of their size. So I would say, like, especially Seed CMS, I would say you guys are, I'll hear your name on a launch every couple days, and you're a smaller organization. So it's obvious you guys are obviously very efficient in your processes. It'd be kind of interesting to learn, how you've scaled the internal organization, how you've scaled what sorts of development methodologies you use to really ensure that you're able to deliver as quickly as you do.
Well, to be honest, I think it's, it starts from, myself and my business partner, Robert, just kind of being a little bit too much of workaholics. It's not uncommon for us to put in 18-hour days. And, hopefully that at some point will come to an end, but it's really, we all push pretty hard. Our team has grown quite a bit over the past year. I think at Unite last year, we were at 5 total. And we just brought on a new developer last week, which puts us at 14 total this year. So that's a pretty big jump in a year. But I think it's really processes. Again, picking the right projects is a big thing. If you pick the right project with the right, and everything in the project makes sense, from the designs to, how you're, and I'd say 50% of what we're doing right now are migrations. So, making sure that you're planning the migration correctly and really, having the experience to do it. If you've done 10 Magento migrations in the past 5 months, the 11th Magento migration is going to be easier than the first. So I think it's really finding things that you're really good at and just exploiting those type of projects. Every time it's going to be quicker. And I think the same's to be said for your developers is really, figure out what they're best at and get them those types of projects. And, they're going to get better every single time.
And I know, Zubin, you work with quite a few very high-end demanding brands. I think it'd be like, how have you managed to kind of scale the business, deliver on performance, but also, you've produced the output of work that you do, but also maintain the quality of delivery that you guys are known for?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I again agree with Sanjay. I think it has a lot to do with our project management team. I wish I could say it has to do with me, but honestly, it has to do with our project management team. Mm-hmm. And they do a fantastic job of managing multiple projects at the same time and ensuring that like the right resources are set up. So what we do before, when we propose a solution to a prospect, we'll actually put it into our project management system, Maven Link, mm-hmm. and we'll take a look at our resources. And so when we give them a timeline, it's based on availability of resources. So they allocate those. And we put quite a bit of emphasis on the discovery and strategy phase up front. And we realize the more time we put into that and really understanding the functional requirements, what is it that we're looking to achieve, and putting as much detail as possible. Mm-hmm. It's not only a matter of saying what you're going to do, but being very clear on what is not included. That's what we realize really helps. Because again, there's gray area when you say you're going to include a blog, for instance, like 10,000 different ways you can do a blog. And so then they can come back and say, oh, what about this? What about that? So it's really important to nail that down. And then so that when it goes into design and development, that we're basically don't have any challenges at that point. And in terms of scope, again, I think it's really important. We make sure that our point of communication with our clients, so if it's a project manager that's also managing account management, that they're well informed about everything. So they don't have to receive information and go talk to somebody else to get insight. We want that communication back and forth to be as smooth as possible. And again, aside from Maven Link, there are a lot of tools we use like BugHerd in terms of ticketing and the QA process, various things that we use that help us streamline that process of getting feedback and being able to respond to it quickly.
Fantastic. Excellent. And obviously, Rocket Code has a fantastic reputation for quality of delivery as well, especially on, integration and and application development. So Emily, I don't know what would you say what internal methodologies is Rocket Code really driving to ensure that they maintain the quality of delivery that they do?
Sure. So we try to be really candid and very open book at Rocket Code. So one of the things we can say about, operational efficiency is that, we have failed again, and then failed better. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of like a constant evolution. Like, we didn't come out of the gate knowing how to do all of these things well, and it would be great if I could say that we did. But we've just had a lot of really great learning opportunities and capitalized on those. But I think to Sanjay's point, something that I really appreciated that he said that I think we have learned the lesson of is, maybe growth isn't always size. Mm-hmm. Sometimes growth is deepening your skill set or just getting really good at one thing. Like, that's growth just as much as it's growth going from 5 people to 30 people. Mm-hmm. And sometimes one is better than the other. And we've learned that lesson that, growth isn't always just adding people. Sometimes it's getting better. So, that's something I would encourage young agencies is to not always worry about just getting more people, but just continuing to be really good at the work that you do. And so that's something Rocket Code has kind of re-internalized and continues to remind ourselves of, is just constant improvement.
Excellent. And I had 2 similar conversations this week with partners that are growing. Their pipeline is really strong. Yep. And they're trying to figure out, do they hire the talent that they need now, taking the risk that the pipeline closes, because they're definitely incurring some costs before the revenue comes in. Mm-hmm. And they've been asking about subcontracting, whether they potentially look at subcontractors. So do any of your businesses ever use subcontractors to help kind of soften out the peaks and valleys, or is everyone an employee? What's been the approach to really accommodating the spikes in business when you're busiest?
You want me to start? I can start.
Yeah.
So we've tried that out before. A couple years ago, we added another smaller company that we did some subcontracting with. It's definitely not something that I'd ever do again. I'd rather hire correctly and train correctly. It was really difficult to manage the quality of work. I found we were redoing essentially everything, so it became a piece that was really difficult for us. Our clients are very particular. I'm sure in different circumstances it may work. As for us, I don't. I think it goes back to choosing the projects properly and not just throwing people at problems, and trying to build your business with your pipeline instead of just taking every project on and then trying to find people to fill the holes.
Mm-hmm. Emily or Zubin?
Yeah, Rocket Code is much the same. We have experimented with subcontracting to various degrees at different times in our evolution, and with very few exceptions have not been super successful with it. We have one subcontractor who is local to our business, and we work with him regularly and consistently. He does a very specific thing for us, and we will always leverage that. Mm-hmm. But beyond that one human being, it's just kind of continued to disprove itself as a viable option for us.
Interesting.
And from our perspective, as I mentioned, because we're doing resource planning regularly, we look at it on a quarterly basis and determine when we're going to need resources. And so based on that data, we understand when we need to hire. Having said that, we have in the past leveraged contractors for overflow work. What we do is we leverage them from a production standpoint. So whether it's design production or development production, it won't be somebody who's architecting the solution because we have all that handled. It's somebody who can help in terms of actual manpower to throw against something. And with that, we ensure that they're within our environment. So typically we like to physically bring them in and have them work within our offices. Because again, I mean, everybody's tried it in one form or another. It can be successful, especially as you're starting out, because you need to scale and you don't want to necessarily take on that risk of bringing people in. But it's important to have that core functionality or the core team in-house that can do certain things so that when you're looking to subcontract, you're not subcontracting something that's mission critical. You're subcontracting something that you can do in-house, but that you just don't have the resources currently to do.
Excellent. And I think hiring and retaining talent has definitely been one of the most consistent themes we've heard from all partners recently. So the community is growing tremendously fast. There's a new partner born every day. And there's Shopify Plus signs up however many merchants it does a day. And all of these organizations are looking for talent. So there's no doubt about it. There's increasing competition that we're seeing within the community for experienced Shopify resources. What has been your approach? From past life, referrals were always referrals, or friends of existing employees was always often the way to go. But do you have any advice to potentially growing partners as to how you've attracted talent previously? Maybe Sanjay, we'll start with you.
For us, we've built relationships with local boot camps and code academies. We feel, especially as a growing company, taking on somebody with 10 years experience of development experience, you're going to inherit a lot of their habits, whether they're good or bad. You're also going to inherit a pretty hefty salary. So by creating relationships with people over that are teachers, so on and so forth, these boot camps locally, pretty much every semester closes and they'll say, hey, we've got this guy, and this guy that we really liked. And we'll put them through our testing process. And I think, especially with us doing strictly Shopify, we're able to train them right out of school and into the process. So and we do have we do have 3 guys in house that came in with a ton of experience that are our leads. But for our new or junior level developers, that's really the process that has worked well for us. And we've created some really good relationships over at some of these schools and boot camps.
Excellent. Emily?
Yeah, similarly. Oh, yep. One of the things I would definitely say is Rocket Code has hired really specifically for either senior talent or junior talent in different parts of the business at different times. And I would say talent, the capacity to make those decisions and making them wisely, I think is something great to keep in mind. And then also just in terms of attracting talent, we offer nice benefits. We offer health insurance, medical, dental, vision. We offer a really nice vacation package. We offer a really flexible maternity, paternity policy. So we've been really cognizant of developing the human relations side of our business as much as we're developing the really cool and amazing technologies that you get to work with and interact with, and how much you're going to enjoy your job, with the balance of how much you can still enjoy your life. And that's something I think we've put kind of equal focus on.
Excellent. And
I think from my perspective, my perspective on just the company as a whole has shifted quite a bit in the last 17 years, because I was just in school trying to start this company, not having worked for anybody else. So I didn't really understand anything about company culture. I didn't understand how to recruit the right talent. So it was mostly the vision that I had for what I wanted to build and getting people in that way. Couple of mistakes along the way. One is the mistake that we've made in the past is hiring based on desperation. So we need somebody really quickly. We got to bring somebody in. And so we're going to quickly do interviews and bring somebody in. Almost every single time that's failed, because we didn't take the right amount of time. We hired out of desperation. It wasn't the right thing to do. That's why it's important, even if you don't have an open position, to have those open positions up so that you're constantly getting talent, so that you can understand, hey, somebody brilliant comes in who's a Node.js developer that we might not need for another 2 months, but shit, we should probably hire him, right? It's those opportunities. But the other part of it is, as our organization evolved and grew, and I realized what kind of place I wanted to work in, that's what we ended up creating. So we created an environment based on how I wanted to work. So I wanted to have flexibility. I wanted to work somewhere where if I wanted to go for 3 weeks and work out of Europe, I could do that. And so those are the types of things that we have. Those are the types of people that we attract. And really, it's kind of difficult here right now, because I've got a leadership team that interviews everybody regardless of position. And if they're not a good fit after they've already indicated that, demonstrated that they're a great fit from a experience standpoint, but then they've got to sit with the leadership team and they've got to see, are they actually a good fit? And it goes back to what Sanjay and Emily were talking about in terms of getting the right clients that fit you. The employees are even more important, because that's that common thread that gets built that defines your organization. And so we're talking about recruiting talent and retaining talent. And I think they're one and the same. If you recruit the right talent, you'll retain that talent, because you know who you are. You recruited them for the right reason. So again, it goes back to understanding who you are, what matters to you, and being clear on what type of people you want to work with. Who do you want to spend most of your life with? That's kind of really important.
That's good. Another consistent theme that we've heard has been around contract management. So this is less of a problem in Shopify land, but in past life, one of the biggest risks to any project was scope creep. There was insufficient due diligence during the discovery phase. You get 3 weeks into the project and you realize you forgot 4 points of integration and what have you. Obviously, that still arises in Shopify land occasionally. What is your approach to contracts management? Are you open to fixed bid versus just time and materials? And what advice would you give to a budding agency that's probably just starting to cut contracts for the first time? And feel free, Sanjay. We'll start with you.
All right. That's an interesting question, because when we were growing as a company, we basically killed ourselves on scope creep. We had really no idea how to properly quote these projects. We'd get into it, and there was always an and then an and. It would just keep on going and going. The best advice that I could give is really, the more time you spend on your proposal, the more clear the project's going to be. And at the end of the day, you're going to end up getting what you deserve for that project if you take your time and you scope it out correctly. If you're using templated proposals and you're sending them out and just trying to get every proposal out the door, which we have done with little to no success, because you get those projects and you realize, oh crap, I forgot this. And then you also get into the place where you don't want to be there thinking, did I mess this up, or does the client have to pay for this? And then, you give the client the benefit of the doubt and you end up paying for it with your labor hours or your personal time. So, the best advice I could give is just spend a lot of time in the discovery process. It's worth it.
That's good. Oh, Emily?
Yeah, I think 100% agree with everything Sanjay has said, including, our missed opportunities at Rocket Code and, where we kind of screwed some of that sort of stuff up. The thing I might add to that is okay, so you've made the mistake and you've gotten somewhere into a situation where you realize that something isn't included or you haven't scoped something properly. And at some point, I think you just have to be honest with your client, whether it's something you didn't know because you didn't know it, or your client didn't know because they didn't know that they didn't know it. Somebody just has to own it and be honest about it. And maybe it's not 9 times out of 10, but with a fair frequency, you'll be able to come to a resolution that's mutually agreeable. But just the sooner you can be honest and open about that kind of stuff, just try to work through it and kind of maybe own thy shit at some point.
Sure.
No surprise here. Definitely agree with Sanjay and Emily. One thing I want to add to that is that it's about that proposal phase, right? There's when you're early on and you're starting your company and you want to get business, you don't really manage your time effectively. And so what I mean by that is you don't really know how much time should I put into a proposal, because you may have only done 5, 10, 20. You really need to do 100 of these, figure out what your close rate is based on where they're coming in from, how much time you're putting in all of them, and then what is really worth it. Because it's this balance of how much time do I put towards this thing that I may have a 25% chance of getting versus putting that time towards something else, right? Or doing 4 of those instead of 1. But I think that it's important to build a proposal template that works for you and works for your organization, that you can continually evolve, but ensure that within there you have certain things, right, that we know when you're doing a Shopify Plus site. It's got to be mobile first. It's got to be optimized for X, Y, and Z, right? Those things are boilerplate. You put those in there, but then get into the details in terms of integration, get into the details in terms of the user experience they're looking for, the sitemap, the functionality, the integrations. All those things are really important because they're what is going to ultimately lead to that scope creep. Again, what we do is, first of all, so all of our proposals are in Google Slides, so the team can collaborate. So when a proposal started, it goes from whoever spoke to that prospect to the project team. So it gets assigned to somebody, and then they go through and then build a Google spreadsheet of all the time that is going to go into every single one of those elements. And then we'll put together in the proposal, we'll break it down and say, okay, like discovery strategy is going to be fixed at this amount. And then once we get into user experience, user interface, front-end development, back-end development, QA, typically we include ranges there. The ranges are because we don't know necessarily what's going to happen. So the client has a good understanding of what that range is going to be. And then what we do is we don't engage with them with a contract that includes a range. We'll only engage with them on the strategy and discovery first. So that'll be our first statement of work. As soon as that's completed, then the full project schedule is provided to them that solidifies the rest of the range. Right. So that's what has worked for us of late.
Excellent. And then, so the demographics of the Shopify Plus merchant have changed dramatically over the past 2 years. So the brands that we're talking to on a daily basis now, I just blow my mind. Like, they weren't brands, to be blunt, that would have been talking to us a year and a half ago. So along with these, working with larger luxury apparel retailers, global brands, and IR 500 merchants, they're going to have a different set of expectations. So it'll be interesting to hear how your services and your support structure are evolving. Are there maybe like new SEO offerings, or whether it's working with new email marketing tools? Are your capabilities internally evolving with the size of the Plus merchant that's coming to us? And I think, Zubin, you might be the exception, because you've been doing work for many years with other platforms with this caliber of large merchant. But it'd be interesting to hear as well how those services have had to be adapted to Shopify Plus.
Sure. I mean, I can start with regards to the size of the merchant, right? So what's great about Shopify Plus is that over the last in its first year of inception, it got a lot of traction within the Shopify community. So it was a graceful upgrade path between Shopify Pro and then Shopify Plus. And that's one of the things that is phenomenal about Shopify Plus, and is going to continually feed Shopify Plus, because it's not like a Magento 1 to Magento 2 migration, which is a full re-platform, right? It's not like that at all. But with that said, I think that a couple of things have changed. So initially, when we were targeting these Shopify Plus merchants, or targeting brands to move over to Shopify Plus, whether they were Magento or they were on a different platform, you're dealing with smaller brands that typically there's one decision maker. When you start getting upstream and you're working with these global luxury brands, you're working with brands that are of a higher caliber. So we're not talking about 7 figures now, we're talking about 8 and 9 figures in revenue. These brands have multiple decision makers. So our experience with enterprise brands in the past has really helped us, because we understand those personas, those buyer personas that are now looking at Shopify Plus, and they have very distinct requirements. They have very distinct needs. Like, what is it that really matters to them? And I think that's why we're well positioned to respond to that. But even with our organization, we've had to evolve quite a bit, because let's take a look at marketing automation, for instance. When we ran marketing automation and we manage it for brands like Sage globally, those are on different types of platforms. It's on Eloqua, it's on Marketo, it's on Pardot. You might be doing that in the Shopify Plus environment, but a lot of what we're dealing with now are more nimble solutions like Klaviyo or Bronto, like these solutions that are actually made for e-commerce, versus trying to fit something in that doesn't really work. And so it's required our team, because of the technology that's available that's more nimble, to not only look at enterprise solutions for enterprise brands. It's the whole paradigm of what an enterprise solution is changing, and Shopify Plus is leading the front on that, because we get and I'm kind of deviating here on a tangent, but I think it's important that we get asked a lot of times, how is Shopify Plus possible at $2,000 a month plus, right? And because they have this perception that you get what you pay for. But that's why Shopify Plus is changing this paradigm, in that you don't have to pay your typical enterprise rates to get enterprise level solution. And so it's not only our organization that's evolving to be able to address that, the marketplace is evolving. And we're all kind of in this together. And that's what's really exciting about it, because we're able to collectively shift the entire mindset of what enterprise software is and should be.
No, yeah, it's the exact, it's the perfect example of like innovative disruption, like coming from below, finding a product that's more consumable, that's more flexible, that's more cost effective. Emily, how would you say the Rocket Code is looking to evolve or expand their set of services? I think you guys have had a phenomenal reputation around integration and on the development side. Do you see Rocket Code expanding into more traditional agency services or marketing services, or expanding the breadth of those capabilities as well?
Yeah, so thank you for the compliment. And the short answer is no, Rocket Code isn't going to expand the number of services we offer or the types of services that we offer at this point. We are in one of those moments of deepening the quality of the current services that we offer. And, kind of to Zubin's point, really having access to some of these very flexible technology partners, things like Klaviyo, things like Shopify. Where we find that we excel is by doing the most fascinating and interesting things with those products and being able to manipulate them or integrate them in a way that people hadn't really thought of as possible before. And in that way, being able to realize these kind of enterprise level solutions with what hadn't previously been perceived as enterprise options. And that's where I think we're going to continue to focus our efforts, is just really building that strength and continuing to grow those opportunities.
Excellent. Sanjay, anything to add from your end?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that Zubin and Emily said. You know, kind of to add to that, you know, we probably have about 15 to 20 clients that we started with as startups over the past 4 to 5 years that are now on Shopify Plus. Last year was a big migration from Shopify to Plus. So seeing all these brands grow and, you know, growing them over the past 4 to 5 years and using things like Klaviyo and Returnly and all these, you know, apps that wouldn't really be considered enterprise level. I think when you're taking on these larger enterprise level clients, when you start speaking with them, and you can explain to them that, hey, this, you know, there's whatever your enterprise level app is, there's something comparable that's a quarter of the cost, and it's going to be far more efficient, and you guys are going to be able to manage it internally. I think just taking the experiences from the small businesses and how they're able to, increase profitability by being efficient, and then explaining to the enterprise level companies that there are ways to be more efficient, is huge. And I think, you know, we're just scratching the surface on that. And, you know, obviously with Shopify Plus and all these different partner brand or partner apps and so on and so forth, there's a lot there that can be offered and kind of discussed with your clients on a case by case basis.
Excellent. So that, you know, the Shopify Plus merchant has grown at some silly rate, like the average percentage of growth that a Plus merchant countered last year just sounds like it's made up. These merchants are obviously, they're encountering challenges that they've never experienced. In many cases, these businesses didn't exist 12 or 24 months ago, and now they're just trying to keep it all together. So I was talking to a merchant last week that just can't find printers that are quality enough to accommodate the scalability of his flash sales, because he goes from what would you say the biggest challenges are for the growing Plus merchant, or for the merchants that you're currently talking to? What's the one thing that they're struggling with most?
Understanding they need to spend money.
I would get that.
There are, and I'm sure Sanjay and Emily run across these types of merchants as well. So to your point, you go from 0 in revenue to $5-7 million in revenue in a matter of 12 to 14 months. You've done everything organically. You have been very nimble. You've done it all in-house. And now you want to take that next step, or you think you need to take that next step, and somebody gives you a proposal to do something on the outside. And you're like, well, I've been doing it myself. I've only spent a few $100s on my last site. Why do I need to spend money with you on this, right? Or whatever that is. I think it's a matter of educating them on why they need to spend money, what that return is going to be. For instance, when we do our advertising plans for prospects, we'll actually take the time if it's worth it. So if it's a brand that's a reputable size that we feel like can actually succeed online in terms of sales, what we'll do is we will build a financial model for them based on a template we have. So put in all the inputs. You're going to spend this much on advertising on Facebook, Instagram, Google, remarketing, email, whatnot. And these are approximately what your click-through rates are going to be, conversion rates on these different platforms. And this is what you can expect in terms of revenue. So once you show them the revenue side of it, I think it makes more sense. But just getting them to break that mold of, typically, like if we take a step back and we say 5 years ago, 10 years ago, a $5 million business was a legitimate small business that took a few years to build. They knew what they were doing. They had that experience. They understood what they're doing. You're not going to just start a $5 million business in 8 months. But now that happens. And so the typical evolution of an entrepreneur that you would get to hear by that point. They're only here. So it's our job to educate them based on the experiences that we have with other entrepreneurs and help them get to that point. But I think that's been one of the biggest challenges in terms of helping them evolve and understand where they need to spend money, why they need to spend that money, and that to go from 7 to 8 figures, those are the things they have to do.
Excellent, excellent. Emily?
Yeah, I mean, all very fair points there. I think one of the things that Rocket Code has kind of learned also is with our strategic, kind of alliances with our clients are less clients and more partners. We get really actively involved in the businesses of our clients, and working with young brands, there's nobody that knows their brand better than they do. They have built a very loyal following. People love their product. They just buy tons and tons of it. Nobody knows that brand better than that client. But then there comes a time when it kind of shifts, and all of a sudden the agency can bring a lot of strategy to that business that will allow them to grow to the next step. And maybe they've taken on a board of investors that's doing a little muddying of the waters as opposed to providing clarity, but really being able to act as a stabilizer for your clients at that point that can help really inform them of where they should be putting their focus from an e-commerce perspective that will grow their business to the next step, and give them some leverage against a board of investors or whatever they're kind of facing on their end. But figuring out where is that moment that you become the expert and need to provide guidance, as opposed to that brand really being the expert of their brand and telling you like what they need done to run their business. So like just finding that shift and owning it.
Excellent, excellent. Sanjay, anything else to add from your side?
Yeah, I agree with Emily there. I think one of the things that we try to do is increase the efficiency of all our clients. With our ongoing clients that we work with on marketing, development, design level on a regular basis, we're always going through on our biweekly or monthly calls, going through and saying, hey, let's go through all your apps. Where are you wasting money? And my marketing director always will kind of get me in on a conversation when we have a client thinking crazy thoughts about, adding functionality or doing something design or development wise. I think a lot of times, especially with the smaller companies, the smaller plus companies, is really, helping your clients understand that there's got to be a balance between what they envision their brand to be and what is going to sell for them online. And I think being able to show them those results and being able to say, if you have this crazy design with all these bows and arrows all over your site, like it's going to look really cool, but it's not going to sell. So I think it's just, trying to make them as efficient as possible, and also, talking them off the ledge at certain times.
Awesome. And I think we're probably already technically past our time, but maybe we'll just do a quick, more rapid fire set of questions. So maybe to start, what is your favorite deployments and why? Maybe in 30 seconds to a minute, let's say. And Zubin, I'll start with you.
TheHundreds.com. We launched this 4 weeks ago. They were on Magento 1. They went to Magento 2. Magento 1 was shit. Magento 2 was shit. So they finally said, we got to go to Shopify Plus. We engaged with them in January. And one of the biggest challenges was that they had 9,000 blog posts in WordPress. And so we built this really cool WordPress Shopify integration, the first of its kind, that truly syncs WordPress with Shopify. And so those 9,000 posts are all now live, active posts on their Shopify site. And many of them are tagged. So we give them the opportunity to tag photos with products, so people can actually buy through those product photos or those photos. And the key with it is a lifestyle brand. So with lifestyle, you want to exude the lifestyle, not just show photography of product. So TheHundreds.com, we love it.
Excellent. Emily?
We choose 47 brand. 47 brand was like the first full, from start to finish, Rocket Code doing the work, launch on Shopify Plus of any of our clients. And they have had to do very little to that site in the last 3 years to continue its functionality and to have something that lives on the internet that is kind of an ever-changing thing that continues to maintain after 3 years, we're pretty happy with that.
Excellent. Sanjay.
My favorite one, our favorite one to work with is probably Kith New York. We've worked with Kith for the past year and a half. We've become really good friends with the guys there. They send us crazy stuff to do with the shortest of timelines. Being a lifestyle brand who's really blowing up right now, there's a lot of interesting stuff that we've done from a blog, lookbook, as well as just a purchasing standpoint. We're constantly adding stuff on a weekly basis, and have done a lot of things from different types of landing pages to different brand stories that have really kind of tested us and pushed us as well. But we love the brand, and kind of their whole how they're growing is fun to watch.
Well, fantastic. And since this was technically a Unite panel, I thought it might be good just to close with, what was the one thing? It could be a product announcement or just an experience. But what was your favorite part about Shopify Unite this year? And Sanjay, we'll start with you, or Emily, we'll start with you.
Sure. So for me, it was Toby's AMA that happened on the second day. Like, if you weren't there for it or haven't watched it, it's available on the YouTube channel. I just watched it again yesterday because I was so fascinated by that conversation, particularly his commentary on the democratization of commerce and how that's represented on Shopify. So if you haven't seen it, watch it.
Excellent. Sanjay?
For me, it was a technical thing, just the multi-location inventory piece. I feel that with the point of sale is going to be pretty next level. We work with a lot of sneaker brands. I see a lot of sneaker shops wanting to make that move sooner than later. So pretty excited about that rolling out.
And from my perspective, I think that certainly the second day turning into an outdoor festival was cool. No power, and we made the best of it. But I think there wasn't any specific thing. It was all of these technologies coming together. And if you look beyond the technologies themselves, what you see, or the features themselves, you see that Shopify and Shopify Plus really have this opportunity to redefine commerce, and not just retail commerce or online commerce, but commerce in general. And that's really the critical or the most exciting thing, because of what's possible now. We're all hearing about what's happening with retail and the demise of retail as it stands today, and wanting retail to become more experiential. And what better platform to be able to build around to do that for retail, both physical and digital retail, than Shopify.
Excellent. Yeah, no, the pace of change in retail only seems to be accelerating. I think this just, you can feel it in the offices here, just the speed with which the market is transforming on almost a weekly basis. So I think 2017 is going to be just a phenomenal experience for everyone in the Shopify Plus community. And if you're a merchant and you have needs, please keep Seed CMS, Rocket Code, and Lucid Fusion in mind. And our hope is to keep this community really as collaborative as possible. So if you're a partner who'd like to have a conversation with any one of our partners, please reach out to your associated partner manager. But yeah, thank you, Sanjay, Emily, Zubin. Thank you for your time today. This was a great chat.
Thanks, Jordan.
Awesome.
Thanks for
Appreciate
having us.
it. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
See ya.
Take care.
Bye.